Good evening. We are live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Ms. Deidre Payne from OC, California. How are you, Deidre?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. Do we have a in-studio guest watching you tonight?
In studio again.
Not with a backdrop like that, Mr. Davis.
I don't get it. You're in the doghouse with Miss Mr. Davis, actually. She'll explain.
And we have our second co-host, Mr. Darren Guy. Mr. Guy coming to us from all the way from Maine.
Yes,
Darren,
sir.
how are you this evening?
I'm doing well, Mr. Davis. Thanks for having me.
Good, good. And I see we have a special guest, Miss Melissa. Is it Hera?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Where are you from?
Southern Alabama.
Southern Alabama. Okay, what's going on down there in Alabama with you and CPS?
Well, nothing good. So a year and a half ago, my daughter had moved back down to my house from her home state of Michigan. She was required by Michigan to get services, counseling, and other things because she was having a lot of issues stemming from her dad's house. Well, no 16-year-old cooperates well. So we ended up having to do what's called in our state, it's called a CHINS petition, which means Child in Need of Services, to put her on probation, to get her to do her counseling, to quit trying to sneak away, run away, go to school, all things she should. And lo and behold, it started the biggest, most horrible snowball effect ever. Now I'm fighting for the custody of my 1.5-year-old and my 4-year-old. And my daughter ended up running away from the system. She is back here in the area, but they refuse to put her back in the system, saying that they know she'll just run away. So they don't want her. They consider her pretty much like damaged goods. On the other hand, right now we're just in a state of limbo before they get around to filing for TPR.
When is the TPR?
Well, they haven't filed for it yet. Actually, they broke proper procedure and took 15, 16 months to actually adjudicate dependency after the shelter hearing.
Okay. Deidre, do me a favor. Flesh out this story a little bit for me. I'm a little bit confused.
I think Darren knows more, but from what I have talked to her just before waiting on you is that her daughter is kind of what opened up her case, and she then had her 2 younger children removed because of her oldest daughter, but now speed up 15 months. It's like they're kind of like done with the older child because she is 18, but I guess she just told me in Alabama she's not really able to like come back home until she's 19 because that's state law. But other than that, they're kind of like done and over with her because what I'm understanding, they kind of just used the oldest to get the 2 younger ones. And now she's kind of like she said in limbo in the fact that I don't know what she meant by the breaking procedure and adjudication. You would have to give the answer to that.
So our state's procedure, you have a 72-hour hearing for the emergency removal. You then, within 90 days, are supposed to hold the second hearing, which is your adjudication to determine dependency. Then they'll do a review approximately 3 to 6 months after. And then at the 1-year mark, they do the permanency planning hearing. In my case, they did the 72-hour shelter hearing, and then they did no other hearings until just actually last month. They finally did the dependency hearings. They deemed the children dependent, so I'm in the process of having to appeal that.
Okay.
Well, from my understanding, what Mr. Davis has said in California is they can't wait that long for the adjudication hearing, right, Mr. Davis?
Well, not unless you and your client agree to it expressly or implicitly to waive that time.
Well, and typically, like I'm originally from Michigan, and even in Michigan, it's kind of the same there. But in Alabama, they kind of have some screwed up laws about that. They actually, if they take that long to hold the hearing, they now argue that the bond between the foster placement and the children is greater than the bond between the parent and the children. Therefore, it makes it even easier for them to terminate.
Yep, that's what happened to me. And they did it on purpose.
Yes, my judge did too. A year ago, he put out an order saying that he refused to hold any custody hearings on my younger children's case until my daughter moved back down from Michigan and agreed to go back in the system. What the judge was unaware of is DHR had actually met with my daughter several times, and they sent her to Michigan because they didn't want her.
And what would your daughter have to do with your two younger children? That shouldn't make sense.
It was just the judge was mad. I've had this judge threaten me over and over and over. See, the back history of this judge is he's only been on bench 2 years, but prior to being appointed bench, he was actually DHR's attorney for almost 20 years in this county.
That seems a little strange.
That's a nice way to put it. I find it more than a little strange, because actually at the adjudication hearing, DHR deemed, well, they said that I was fit. They said that I was proper. They said everything was good. And the judge still deemed them dependent, said a whole lot of nasty things about me in the order. He even stopped mid-hearing to tell the attorney that I had how much he disliked me.
Was that on the record?
Melissa?
Yes, that is on the record.
Well, sounds like you need to appeal, my friend.
I am. I actually just filed that today. We filed the appeal and got all that situated. Now it's a 52-day wait for the transcripts, and here's hoping.
The other thing you might want to suggest, or at least talk with your attorney, is possibly filing some type of judicial complaint. In California, we have the California Judicial Commission, where if you have a problem with a judge, you can go ahead and file a complaint. And I bet your state has something like that.
They do. It's called the Judicial Inquiry Commission.
Yeah. I mean, but if a judge tells you on the record that he doesn't like you, that might be something that needs to be investigated.
It's not the first time.
Whether he likes you or not.
I mean, he's threatened me with felonies. He's misquoted the law, all kinds of things. So it's been rough having him for a judge. And my biggest fear with filing anything as far as judicial is just the fact that with their complaint, if they find any reason to deem it a proper complaint, they immediately send him a copy of it, and they do not require him to withdraw as judge from my cases. And I'm actually afraid of this judge.
Melissa, you should also mention to Mr. Davis that your daughter, your oldest daughter that's 18, is pregnant and is about to have her own baby.
My oldest daughter is due to deliver here October 5th by C-section. It would have typically been by normal delivery, but during her stay in a juvenile psych facility. That's where they held her here. She got beat so bad that it caused a severe brain bleed. And
she got beat by who?
Other kids within the facility, and they left her bleeding out her ear and nose for a period of like 10 days before they finally took her to the hospital. They kept calling it self-inflicted. And then upon an MRI, they deemed that she actually had a rupture in a vessel that is between the brain and the eye. It's the main vessel that feeds blood flow to the eye.
So did she get pregnant when she was 17 then, underage?
Yeah, she was 17 when she got pregnant, and it was actually the only nice way to put it is a molestation by where DHR actually sent her up in Michigan. And the problem was she was afraid to come back. She was afraid to reach out to anyone. She tried reaching out to a couple people, and they just said, oh, she's full of it, because DHR actually contacted the police up there where she was staying at and told them essentially not to believe anything she said. I know because I'm part of the email chain on that, and I seen what the sergeant had actually said to her, essentially saying that she was crying wolf.
So who's the father?
One of her distant family members up in northern Michigan.
Oh. While she was under CPS's custody?
Yep. And they told the sheriff's department up in northern Michigan that it was false because technically they're liable for her, and they didn't want to be liable for that.
Have you had any conversations with a civil rights lawyer?
I've called, and I'm not joking about these numbers, I've called between 30 and 50 civil rights attorneys. They won't get involved. They don't want nothing to do with it down here. I've tried reaching out to lawsuit attorneys. I've been in contact with over 75 family practice attorneys, and the attorneys that we have now, because it's me and my husband. My husband's attorney has never done a family appeal, but he's willing to make the effort because, unfortunately, the judge denied us legal counsel here. In order, he denied us counsel. So if I can't pay for it, it ain't going to happen. And let's just say to go to one hearing, it has cost me and right around $40,000.
For one hearing?
Yep, just for the adjudication hearing. It was 2 court days, 1 week apart, 4 hours the first day, 8 hours the second day. And then the time for him to review my file and everything. And it cost me about...
your kids are not home, and you paid $40,000.
Oh, that's just to that attorney. I had an attorney before that I paid $12,000. He never filed anything. And another attorney before that I paid $15,000, and they never filed anything.
Were these all CPS attorneys, juvenile dependency attorneys?
Well, down here, there's not really very many attorneys that specialize in CPS. They're just, quote, family law, divorce attorneys.
Yeah, but that's probably why you didn't get anywhere then. That's one of Mr. Davis's biggest, I don't know.
My attorney has to travel almost 4 hours to get to where I'm at because there really is no attorneys here in the area. I called the bar association.
Mr. Davis.
No, I called the bar.
I think he could have done something for you, right? I said, why didn't you hire Mr. Davis at $40,000 just for one lawyer, meaning you paid more than that? I think Mr. Davis could have made some dents for you, because what is the allegation of why they're even keeping your 2 younger children? Or took them out of your family?
Actually, there is no allegations. They admit that there's no allegations. They just deem them dependent because they don't like the fact that my husband had a criminal charge in 2006. And even though by law, there's nothing stopping him from living with his family, Up until March, they said we had to be together to get the kids. Now, all of a sudden, they want us apart. And the judge put in his order that even if we was to divorce today, it is only a ruse to further hide the law and break the rules. But as far as actual allegations against us, there is none. And they openly admit that.
I don't see how your kids are not back home. Makes no sense.
That's the question
Maybe
I
ask
ask
Mr.
every
Davis
day.
your question. Yeah. Get Mr. Davis to answer questions for you.
Well, I mean, at this point, you know, I don't even know how to go about trying to, because a lot of what I do, I have to do myself. Obviously, legal counsel hasn't been the utmost helpful here. So I've been trying to figure ways to file things to try to correct the record, because the judge hates me because he thinks I've been lying to him for a year and a half. What he doesn't realize is the lady who was the director of DHR, she worked with him for 10 years, and she made a mess out of my whole case to a way that I don't even know how to repair it. And in our state, we have a 1-year statutory law. At 1 year, they're required to look for family placement, then adoption. And if both of those fail, only then will they try to reunify.
So they do it backwards?
Yep. Well, if it would have been less than a year, if the judge would not have put out the order, you know, halting all court cases for over a year, if he would not have put out that order, then it would have been reunification, then family, then adoption. But because we're past that statutory 1-year mark, it's backwards.
Ay.
And they're not contacting any of my family. Actually, my family that was on record to be considered for placement, they've dismissed all of their petitions as they referred to them as stagnant, and dismissed them from the court so that there's no suitable family.
You left me speechless.
You know, and I don't even know how to even try to go about clarifying the record. I don't think that this judge is as hateful and as spiteful as he acts toward me. It's just Jody had painted the case so bad and made me look so bad that the judge literally tells everyone that every word I speak is a lie.
Darren, do you have any questions or comments?
No, you know, there's just with this, there's just so much influence by the judge. I don't see how her attorneys or herself aren't asking for the judge to be recused. I mean, if your judge is out there sitting there saying that they hate you, pretty much, I don't see how you're going to get a fair shot at this ever. And I don't see. I would definitely. I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, this is grounds for recusal, right, Mr. Davis?
It would be in California. Let me ask you something, Melissa.
Yes.
I want to back up for a second. Where are you located? Are you south of Montgomery?
1 hour.
You're 1 hour south?
Yep.
Are you near Troy?
I know where Troy is. That's about an hour from me.
Are you near Andalusia?
That's 20 minutes from me. I'm in a small area called Monroeville and Evergreen. I'm right in between the two. I'm right off of the major freeway, 65 there.
Are you right off 65?
Yep.
So you said you're between Evergreen and Monroeville?
Yeah.
Okay, what county is that?
Conecuh. Conekuh.
Is that near Ripton?
I live in Repton.
Okay.
Ooh, it's like he's coming for you. It sounds like.
You're down there. You're down there in South Alabama.
I am in the middle of nowhere. I thought moving to an area where my neighbors were, cows, literally, that it would be a good quiet area to live. Go figure.
They find them there too. Gosh, CPS. Woo.
Where's the court?
It is in Evergreen, 20 minutes from me.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Evergreen's what, off the 64?
It's off,
The 84, I mean.
no, it would be the next exit. It's 2 miles north of 84, right off of 65. It's 1 mile off of 65, like the very next freeway exit north.
There must be only like one juvenile judge
I
in your
know.
county.
That's what I was going to say.
Actually, there's 3. There's the head circuit judge and essentially chief of the court, who's a very good upstanding man who don't take any crap from DHR. There's this judge who just got appointed, who was, like I say, just before being appointed, he was DHR's attorney. And then his best friend actually got appointed as DHR's attorney. So that just adds insult to injury. And then there's one other judge that is district only, that she does a lot of the DHR cases too. And the judge I have, he does circuit and district. And they hear all the DHR cases in the district.
How come you weren't allowed to have a court-appointed attorney? What was his reasoning?
He didn't give a reason.
Judges can do that, Mr. Davis?
It's up to each state. California gives you a judge. Gives you a court-appointed attorney, but Alabama may not.
It does. It actually does. I've read the statute. If you do not have representation and cannot afford it, one has to be appointed to you. And he never really gave a reasoning. So I spent 8 months doing, the work myself, which he didn't hold any hearings during that time. It made it a little easier. But the few hearings that he did hold and the status conference that he held, being that I was self-represented, he denied me the ability to appear at those conferences and hearings.
What?
Yes.
I feel like your case is just all over, wow.
It's crazy.
So let me ask you something.
Yes.
How old are the kids involved?
My daughter is
18, right? You said?
Well, my oldest daughter is 18. She just had a birthday over the weekend. My son is 4, and my youngest daughter, who was born during these dealings with CPS, is now 15 months.
See, that's why. They wanted those babies.
Where's the father of the children?
My son's father has passed away. He passed away a year and a half ago. Actually 2 months before all this happened. I'm married to the father of my youngest daughter. And then the father of my oldest daughter resides in Michigan, and he's pretty much washed his hands of the whole thing, and he does not want to be involved.
Who has your children?
2 different foster homes. They will not place them in the same home. The lady that has my youngest Actually
Wants
had
to
an
adopt.
approved adoption application prior to her ever even being born.
Oh my gosh. And she was handed your baby right out of the hospital, right?
Well, they threw me out of the hospital 1 hour after. They removed my husband 15 minutes after my daughter was born. 2 armed guards removed him. And then not quite an hour after, they brought in a computer. They said, here, sign this paper. You know, I thought it was a consent to treat or something that didn't get signed. And then they said, okay, there's your clothes. You can go ahead and get dressed. We'll have the doctor come in, take out the epidural. And the doctor came in, removed the epidural, and I'm kind of looking at him funny, like, why am I getting dressed? They said, okay, now you need to leave our premises.
What did you sign?
They had me sign a one of those mandatory leave the hospital forms so that they're not liable for throwing me out.
And then where did your baby go?
Stayed in the hospital for the first 4 days and then straight over to the foster home.
Yeah, that's what I mean by they got your baby, like basically brand new, right out of the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still
Yeah,
have visitation?
the worker that came into the hospital, I actually heard her out there, and she was telling them how I would sneak and kill my kid, and they better not have me in there because I may hurt other children too, and just all kinds of crazy stuff to get them to throw me out and not allow me because it was on a weekend, and they couldn't get a signed judge order till Monday.
Yeah.
And when the judge did put out the order, it said that I could see my baby anytime I wanted, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I went down to the hospital and I tried to see her, and I got met by a team of guards. And I had to actually kind of call up the chain till I got the highest up I could in the hospital. And then I got to see her for 15 minutes, and that was the only time I got to see her. I've only seen her an hour a week since. And they've canceled in the last year and a half, they've canceled, I believe, 14 visits with her and 16 visits with my son.
Well, I hate to state the obvious, but you need a good lawyer.
You need Mr. Davis.
Great. You coming to Alabama?
He's going to Maine. He can stop there on the way.
I mean, Melissa, what you're telling me, I don't know how to say this any other way, but it's almost unbelievable.
Yes.
Well, and I've recorded and I've documented and I've wrote down everything, and I've done everything I can to make sure that I have a full record, right down to even having the recordings I have transcribed, just to make sure that I'm on top of everything. I've even bought into some of the legal research companies so that I could do my own research. And I've studied 101 case laws looking for cases similar to mine. And the thing is, it don't exist. Everyone had some kind of issue. One of the first things DHR said when they got up there to testify, their attorney says, isn't it true that Miss Hara never failed the drug screen? And the DHR worker says yes. And they asked the DHR worker, does my husband pose a risk of harm to the children? She says, absolutely not. That's his children.
What?
And they actually said that that I was financially fit, that I properly supervise, that I do everything I can to make every visit I can, that I completely remodeled my house. And they said the only thing they didn't like about my house is they wanted me to put a fence between my shed, the house, and then they wanted a baby gate in my kitchen.
And then that's why you don't have your kids back.
No, they never gave it. Actually, the judge said in his mind, the children were dependent. He failed to acknowledge anything stated by DHR during his order, and then we filed the alter, amend, and vacate. And he still failed to acknowledge the fact that DHR said good things about us.
This judge really has it out for you.
Well,
Yeah.
and their emergency removal took 3 months.
That's typical though.
Wait,
How long
emergency
do they,
removal?
Mr. Davis, when they get those preliminary protection orders or those whatever the first time they come for your kid? How long do they have? Do they have infinite amount of time to take your kid, or do they have like 72 hours, or how long are those
in California? I think it's only good for like a week or 2 weeks at the most. I forget. But they don't last forever, and I think that that's a constitutional issue. So I would guess, because I'm not licensed in Alabama, I would guess that they have a limited life as well. Melissa,
They do.
Yeah, Melissa, do you have an attorney right now? Yes or no?
Yes, but no, because he's not going to be moving. Yeah, I don't have another $30,000.
Okay,
so from
listen
this
to
point
question.
forward, I'll be doing it myself.
Okay, all right, that's a really bad strategy.
It's the best strategy I can come up with, Melissa,
it's a loser. Okay.
Oh, I know it is. This judge hates people that represent themselves.
So don't do it.
I don't have any other option. I'm out of money. I don't have another $30,000.
And they want her grandbaby, so to speak, that's about to be born. That's the biggest, I think, thing right now is they have that eye on that grandbaby, her daughter's baby. I feel like.
Well, and over and above that,
let's not talk about the grandbaby. Let's stay on one topic.
Over and above that, we got a pretty substantial income before the children were removed. There was dependency payments from, surviving benefits from my ex. And my daughter has a $200,000 lawsuit settlement. And DHR was actually going to try to deem her mentally incompetent to hang on to her past the date that lawsuit was released. And currently they're getting my $5,000 a month. And the judge also put out another child support order that he wants me to pay over and above. And he put out an order that he wants me to pay it for my daughter, who ain't even in their care.
That's what it is right there.
Darren, what do you think?
I think that she's screwed and should move out of Alabama, man. I just think I think she needs to I think that she needs to obviously get an attorney, and I think she needs to get away from that judge. I mean, she's not going to win with that judge. I mean, I don't know.
Have you filed any appeals, ma'am?
I just filed the notice of appeal. We just filed those today. Today was day 13 after the judge's final order denying the alter, amend, and vacate. So now it's a whole lot of hurry up and wait.
It's just crazy. I mean, I've spoken to her previous to this, and it's like you said, it's almost unbelievable what they've done to her, and all of this stems from her older daughter getting involved in the system and her being a good parent and trying to keep her daughter on the straight and narrow. And from all of this comes the removal of the 2 kids, and it's it's disgusting. It really is disgusting.
Her daughter being abused and not getting medical attention for 10 days, and then getting pregnant and molested and not even getting anything out of that. She was underage. I mean, the list goes on and on. But now you said it too. They're getting the money that you would be getting from your son's father that passed away, right? You said?
Yes.
And now your daughter's lawsuit that they're going to supposedly get the money on too, right?
Well, if they don't take her, they don't get her lawsuit. But
right.
Unfortunately, as they say, the pink elephant in the room that we've all kind of discussed is what I think they're waiting on, and that's for her child to be born. They want to keep her close by, and then after her child's born, because they just scheduled.
Yeah.
Well, they just scheduled her a hearing for October 3rd. She's due on October 5th. And they're calling it a final hearing, but there's no way the judge is going to close out her case, say that it's safe for her and her baby to live in my house, but yet it ain't good enough for a 4-year-old and a almost 2-year-old to be in my house. So I see no way that this is going to end in a positive note. I do believe they'll kick my daughter back out, but I believe my daughter will be the only one coming back out.
Well, let's not.
Do the foster parents of your son want to adopt him as well?
He's in a different foster home, and they're known for being pretty abusive. And my son cries at every visit as to how bad things are going. And they essentially drag him out of the room crying because he wants to come home, and he says he wants to come home. And
man,
I actually had a worker come to me, and she told me, she was a very nice lady. They then tried to use her against me in court, but it didn't work because no matter what she said, it was still positive to my case. But she came to me before the last ISP, and she told me, she says, Melissa, she says, I have to tell you, everything to beat your case is in your file. She says, I can't tell you that there's a way to get it, but if there is a way to get the paperwork, get it. She says, everything proving your case is in your file. She says, we have no right to be holding your children, and they need to be home with you. And at most, all you need is services or counseling or something to reunite your family in your house, and that's it. She says, but they're taking me off your case because I wrote nice things about you in the reports. And she even told me
You couldn't put her on the stand and have her say that in court?
We did put her on the stand, and we did question her, but obviously I couldn't straightforward say, hey, did you want to be the whistleblower of the week? Because that would lead to immediate termination of her job. But she is the one that said there was no risk of harm in my house, and that the only thing ever said bad about me was my daughter blowing off steam. And she wouldn't even repeat what my daughter said. She just said the only person to ever make an allegation was my daughter, and that they were all known to be false. And like I say, at this point, I just don't know what to do, because I've called the bar, I've called legal aid, and they don't have attorneys that practice in the field of which I need an attorney within my practice area, is what I get told. I mean, I've literally, called one attorney who wrote a beautiful paper on procedure law here in Alabama. And the paper was actually, I found it by the Bar Association. And I contacted him and I told him, I said, name the amount. I said, if you want, I'll give you the deed to my house. I don't care. I'm not going to put a price on my children. I'll do whatever I have to. And he just wasn't interested in traveling that far.
Where was he?
Okay, again, maybe you should hire Mr. Davis.
He was up near Birmingham, Alabama, so he's about 3 hours.
I don't know. This is a very difficult situation. What, Deirdre, Mr. Guai, anything?
If they don't have any allegations against her, Mr. Davis, I don't see why she can't file something like a motion, like you say, to have the kids returned home. There's nothing that, as far as she's saying, is like whatever case plan she obviously was ordered to do. It seems like she's done and did that, drug testing, everything. I mean, I just don't see what legal grounds they can keep her kids from her.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, you keep saying, I don't see it. I don't see it. That doesn't matter. It's happening.
Right.
yeah.
What
This is real.
matters is what are we going to do about it? That's the only thing that matters.
Well, that's what I mean. There's no motion that she can file based off of no allegation standing to have her children return home, or she'll just be denied.
First of all, in juvenile cases, at least in California, there's no motion practice. There's no real motion practice. This isn't a criminal case. It's not a civil case. So people always say, well, you didn't file any motions in my case, or my attorney didn't file. There's no motions to file.
Mm.
You win a case by having a contested hearing, by putting witnesses on the stand, by introducing documents into the court record during the trial. Forget the motion. Let's have a hearing. Let's have a trial.
And
In
hopefully I'll
Alabama,
be
there's no
invited.
jury, right? There's no jury in Alabama, right?
No, Alabama is not a jury state, and I'm actually, after reading all the things about it not being a jury state and knowing the rate of wrongful termination in my state, I'm actually looking at taking some of the bills from the other states to work on putting something together that I have a House representative willing to look at to hopefully, I know it won't be in any time to help me and mine, but maybe it'll help some family later on that they might have the right to a jury trial, because it'd be a lot different.
Do we have a state captain for Alabama?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I was just asking Mr. Davis if we have a state captain for Alabama yet, because if we don't, I think you would be a very good candidate.
I do too, and Grace, please contact her about that. But Melissa, what you just said about helping people in the future is good. Okay, don't get me wrong, but you need to think about that much later. You need to focus on winning your case, and that's all you need to focus on. Okay, don't go start focusing on changing laws that aren't going to help you. Wait till you win the case or you lose the case, then you can start focusing on it. But you should only be thinking about ways to win this case. That's it.
And I do. Every day I try to look up some case that's occurred here through our Alabama appeals or Supreme Court to find something, some little extra bit that we can use toward this appeal. I do think we have a great chance of appeal, because at this point, with the judge's position and attitude and demeanor, DHR can tell the truth and call me fit, because the judge will always call me unfit, and they know it. So they don't hide the truth about me on record. They just probably didn't realize that I was willing to take the time and spend the money to appeal it, because they think that they've left me in a spot to where I had been 100% broke with no way to crawl out of it and being denied an attorney. They figure me being a high school dropout, someone who would never be able to sit down, read a law book, make sense of it, and put the right 2 + 2 together to get the number that I need.
I'm not sure of what you just said, Melissa. I'm a little confused.
Well, DHR assumed that by me being a high school dropout, that I would be too dumb to fight this case myself. And they thought that if they threw enough motions and filings and ex partes at me in the beginning, that I would walk away and abandon my kids. They literally filed a different motion through either a regular motion for whatever their cause was, or an ex parte motion for whatever their cause is, once every 2 to 3 days for the first 3 months. In the first 3 months, there was over 120 motions filed on my daughter's case, 90 motions filed on my son's case, and 63 motions filed on my other daughter's case. We also had my daughter's childhood friend who lived with us at the time, who was put in the system. The guardian ad litem told her to run away, and that if she crossed the state line, they couldn't come after her. They then used that to take an order to stop visitation between me and my daughter. And
Wow.
and I still have the text messages. Actually, I read them to Darren the other night, and he couldn't believe it.
It's crazy.
And by the way, just to show how in the middle of nowhere we are, the guardian ad litem is the judge's cousin. And worked for the same company that the director of DHR was working for in the past. And it is so corrupt here, especially in my county, that I don't even know what to do. Like, the judge issued an open-ended search warrant of my house, saying that they could use any force necessary to enter my house anytime they so choose, for pretty much any reason.
What?
And they've never had issues coming up. Anytime they come up to my door, sure, come on in. I mean, what's the point of stopping them now? It's not like I'm protecting my kids and keeping them from getting a hold of my kids. They have my kids. Fine, you want to see my house? You want to go through my fridge? Go ahead. It's appropriate. It's clean. It's proper. I have nothing to hide at this point.
Where's your oldest daughter staying currently?
With me. And
Is
they
that
know
that?
it. Yeah. They know where she is. And actually, the caseworker called me earlier this morning and said that she did kind of get to talk to her supervisor, but not completely, because we're trying to have a meeting because they want to have Sarah back on, like, in-home services before her court date. And honestly, I think it's just so that they could further argue her dependency for the obvious reasons.
Well, the more services, the more money they collect too. So
And so the daughter that started everything, meaning the one that supposedly got your two younger children taken away from you, it's like they know that now she's home, but yet again, you still are not allowed to have your other children be
Right.
home.
Well, they know she's here. They don't tell the judge.
Oh, well, yeah, but that's what I kind of mean, in a way.
Yeah, no, actually, in the judge's order, he has that I'm hiding her from the system when I'm actually not. The only reason they know where she's at, what's going on with her, is because there's a court order saying that I have to tell them anything, everything. Well, they don't want her, so I don't have to hide anything from them. I mean, she's seen them in person. She's walked up to them. They don't want her. On the other hand, come October, they will want to be involved with her. And I dread anything that comes out of that, because if she suffers any part of what I've suffered, she's not as strong of an individual as I am. And I'm in fear of her, honestly, her sanity at the least.
You can't send her to somewhere out of state where she can have the baby out of state so they can't get the baby?
Well, actually, her baby is going to be born down in Pensacola, Florida area. There's several hospitals down there. That's where her doctor is. But they are relentless, especially this judge. This judge actually called up to her home state judge and demanded that her home state judge relinquish jurisdiction just so that he could try to get Michigan to mail her back down here. And the judge up there was so upset of the whole thing that she actually held a hearing, and she got out of the middle of it. She did not want to be involved. And this judge is just upset that her dad that had sole custody of her in Michigan, when Sarah left, she went back to Michigan. And to add the extra twist to it, my daughter is legally married.
What?
Yes, and the
Oh,
judge
wow.
says he don't care. She's his jurisdiction and she needs to be in the system.
But they don't want her.
The system don't want her, no, but the judge does.
Mm.
Are you going to be trying to find another lawyer, or are you going to continue using the lawyer that you're using?
Honestly, until I can build up some more money and retain different counsel, while we're kind of in this stalemate, I will be self-represented. I'm not expecting him to try to hold another hearing for probably between 4 and 6 months. So hopefully by then I'll be able to retain someone a little closer. So even if they're a little worse, the judge will still respect them more than he does me. And I won't have to pay as much travel time.
Okay. Well, that's your plan, and I guess you're sticking to it.
Well, it's the only thing I can do. I mean, I can't just give up, lay down, roll over. I mean,
ask Mr. Davis to help you.
Well, he's absolutely welcome to come help. Heck, we could even take him out boating for the day.
No. Fishing.
We specialize in bribery down here. You know, we got boats and stuff. We could do a lot of fun shit out here.
Hey, have you ever heard of a barbecue restaurant called The Shack?
Yes.
Is it really good?
Actually, it is.
Mr. Davis, what have you been doing this whole time?
It's really good. There's another restaurant. It's actually a bar/restaurant called Heroes. Has the best crawfish dip you've ever had. Place called Felix's down on Mobile Bay has the best crab soup you've ever had.
Keep bribing him. He needs to come down to Alabama.
Darren, do you know what crawfish is?
I sure do, Mr. Davis.
What about you?
That's the miniature lobsters.
All I know is they bring too much stuff out to the table to clean up what you're about to make a mess of. No, thank you. I don't eat seafood. No way.
Actually, me and
They're
Darren
really
were
seafood,
talking.
right? Crawfish isn't really seafood, though, right? They're just the little lobsters, right?
It's
little lobsters. They're the ones with the eyes and the long, like, red tentacles. Ew.
Actually, me and Darren were talking about a place that if you ever came down here and visit, we have a restaurant where they actually throw fresh hot rolls at you. You hold up your hand. It's called Home of the Throne Roll. It's oh shoot. It's I can't even remember the name of it, but it is just the best restaurant ever. They bring pass arounds to where they've got these yeah, it's called Lambert's. They have one out in Missouri too.
Yeah, my mom loves that.
They bring around these big pots, and they got the black-eyed peas, the fried potatoes, fresh fried okra, all kinds of stuff. And it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet where the buffet comes to you. And when you want a fresh hot roll, you just hold up a hand.
Have you ever been to Mary Ruth's?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, but never been there.
Mr. Davis, are you going to tell us next that you have family close to Miss Melissa?
Yeah, he was awfully nosy about Montgomery.
Well, and he awfully is trying to tell you he knows quite a few places that he's asking you about.
He got real interested a little bit.
Exactly where you live, off of what exit, what freeway.
Exit 93.
He's trying to see how long it will take to get there from his family members' house.
How long is it from Maine to Alabama?
13 hours, we decided.
13 hours. Wow.
Yeah.
If you come,
just go in the nighttime and sleep.
If you come to Alabama, in your part of Alabama, where would I land in an airplane?
Large or small airplane. That makes all the difference in the world.
You know,
Well, you'd have to land large
American
first.
Airlines or Delta or something like that.
It would be actually Pensacola Airport.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Pensacola is only an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because Mobile Airport, they use a lot of the small private jets and what I refer to as the puddle jumpers. The ones that only hold enough fuel to go to the other side of the puddle.
Mr. Davis, you better hope that you'd be alive if you went there. Jeez Louise.
Oh, if he came here, he wouldn't want to go back. It's fun here.
No, I mean as far as getting there, safety-wise, these little planes.
She's crazy.
Hey, but you know what? Seriously, he keeps giving you hints about what is your next plan as far as hiring an attorney. And you keep saying you need to wait some time to get more money, which makes sense. But I'm trying to tell you to use that money
I'll work out an agreement with him and hire him. I ain't opposed to that. I've been following his show for a long time. I've read all the books and writings, and I watch all the little videos.
You should have hired him way back when with all that money you spent.
I'm not going to say that I've reached out to his office a few times, and I kind of didn't get anywhere. You know, it's kind of like this is my third time to quote, try to be on a show.
You bailed on her 2 times.
And Mr. Davis was missing in action those 2 times.
And you were late today, Mr. Davis. You owe her. You got to go to Alabama.
Yeah, stop and pick up Darren on your way.
Mr. McGuire, where'd you find this co-host, man?
You guys were both late. So you gave me 10 minutes with Melissa because I was on time. Thank you.
I feel like we need to bring Miss G back.
You need to fire me and Miss G back. I knew you were going to say that. I knew that was coming.
You know what? We need to make a rule: no more sugar for Deidre before the shows.
Yeah. Either that or she's got to get back in the car and do the show.
Yeah, shush.
She'd go outside and run around the block real quick and then come inside.
Oh, man.
Hey, Melissa, listen,
yes.
I want to, first of all, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Secondly, I want to ask Grace, our executive producer, to contact you to be a captain for our movement, our nationwide movement for the state of Alabama. Third, I want you to consider doing 1 or 2 shows on my platform per week, especially for those folks in Alabama. I talk to people in the Deep South a lot, and I always get the feeling that like the Constitution may be suspended down there for some reason. I don't know. That's just a feeling I get. You know, if you're in a high profile place like, LA, I mean, the law sometimes is everything. But if you're not in a high profile place, the law may not mean as much. And that's an unfortunate thing. And you may be able to lead a charge to change that.
That's my future goal.
Okay.
My current goal is get the kids home. My future goal is to actually try to help lead a change for our state, because all of our courts are relying on the appellate court to correct the errors. It is so bad that one of our House representatives passed a bill on June 1st. It was signed by the governor, called House Bill 6. And it's literally a bill stating that parents have a fundamental right to raise their children and to their schooling and their health care, and that any interference would only have to be under the most egregious of situations. And it's sad that I live in a state that we have more than ample case law to support that same argument, but they had to literally put it into a bill that it will become a statute because they don't look at what laws they have to correct problems. They lose sight of the rights that people have.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, and you're going to need some lawyers to start enforcing this stuff.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mr. Davis, can you imagine if you walked into that courtroom in Alabama and we
Yes,
did what you do?
come walk
I
into the
think the
courtroom.
judge would just walk out the courtroom. I think the judge would just say, here's your kids go. Oh, that would be okay. I'm shutting up.
Wait a minute, with how
I think
small
Deidre
this
thinks
town
you're like Rambo. You know, like Deidre thinks you're gonna come in there with your long ass jacket on,
People
the
are asking for his
trench coat,
autograph in Orange County, California. What do you think would happen in Alabama?
Actually, our judge would probably ask to be on his show because he is.
Can I get your autograph there, Mr. Davis?
I'm
Well,
not.
no, he in our county, he is the head of the Children's Policy Council.
No.
Okay, so he's the head of this, trying to make changes for children. And a lot of times when he speaks, I do believe that his heart is in the right place. The problem is, the second you step on his toe, he is out to get you with the hatchet and all of his neighbors and everything he could come after you with. The one benefit I have had in my case is the fact that our district attorney does not respect him as well as he should. Otherwise, this show would be happening from a cell block in the Connecticut County jailhouse, because that judge has threatened me with a felony almost every single time I've been in front of him.
All right. Okay, Melissa, we're way over time. Thank you again. Don't forget, Grace is going to be calling you
Okay.
for those two things. I want to thank you for being on again tonight. And I want to thank Ms. Deidre Payne, co-host extraordinaire from Orange County.
I might be back on a timeout.
Hey, you know what? If you get bored, all three of you guys could come down and visit. We could just make a whole party out of it. And then we can
Got
add
an airboat.
He wants to set up, a meeting every so often.
and then we could have Mr. Vincent bail us all out when we TP the judge's house.
Do they even still toilet paper places? Is that still a thing?
Yes, down here it is.
Oh,
I haven't
shoot.
seen that in 100 years.
Well, it's almost Halloween time.
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
Huh.
On that note, Mr. Davis is going to say it's time to go.
Mr. Why, thank you again for appearing.
Hey.
We will be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday night.
Darren has his show tomorrow, too, with Mike.
Yeah, don't forget
Men in the Trenches.
CPS Men in the Trenches tomorrow
Count down
night,
those
7
hours.
o'clock Eastern time.
Okay,
What is that? 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock?
4
your time?
o'clock. 4 o'clock, California.
Okay, now let me ask you something. Darren has a show with a co-host by the name of
Mike Bart.
Mike Bartz, ex-Air Force serviceman. And the show is at what time, Darren?
It is 4 o'clock your time, right? 7 o'clock mine. So
okay, 4
So
p.m.
6 o'clock mine.
So yeah, so 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern.
Let's all learn how to tell time.
Okay, the show is on 4 p.m. Pacific time on YouTube and several of our social media, Facebook channels. I want everybody to tune in, and I want everybody to watch Mr. Guai and his co-host. Miss Deidre Payne, whatever happened to your show?
I don't know. Ask Grace. I think she's waiting for permission from you so I can come back from my my timeout.
Grace, start her show again. Let's see what she will do.
Hey, God, you sounded so enthusiastic about that one.
No, I want to tell you guys something, both of you.
Yes.
I got a message today
from
Facebook. We were disciplined.
Why?
Well, it's a long story. But I want you to know that if you violate community standards, so many times, not only will you be disciplined, but your page and your show will be canceled on Facebook.
From our show last night, we
No.
got. Oh,
So you guys think that this is America and you have a freedom of speech?
Mm-mm.
You don't, especially on Facebook's owned platform. Okay.
Mm.
To broadcast on Facebook like I'm doing right now, I don't pay them a dime. And because of that, they get to call the shots. And they have community standards. And if you don't comply with their community standards, you're off the air permanently.
Mm.
So all the videos that we've done and that reside on Facebook right now, they will all be wiped out. So
where are these community standards that we can find?
Yeah,
So
Mike and I went over the YouTube ones. We'll have to go over the Facebook ones too. Then I guess.
go over the Google Facebook community standards.
Yep.
You'll find them, and you should read them because they will kick you off the air, and you lose your page, and you lose all the video content that's on it. So naturally, you probably don't want to do that. All right. Otherwise, if you comply with the standards, your videos and all this content live on forever. People can look at it and go back and forth and look at it forever.
Mm-hmm. Immortal.
Yeah. Okay, folks, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Melissa, stand by for Grace. She's going to get in touch with you either this evening or tomorrow, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.